Hello, everyone. Last night I watched the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers in a really good Super Bowl matchup to become champions. And now the draft order is officially set. The Chicago Bears are on the clock, and it is draft season time, which for me as a Falcons fan has been all I've had to look forward to for the last 6 years. Also, I'm not complaining at all that Kyle Shanahan lost another Super Bowl. Honestly, I would be pretty upset if he won. I'm still salty about that. But anyways, enough of that. It's time to get into the first official mock draft with the set draft order. And this again will be with no trades. And I would like to say one more thing. Thank you guys so much for 500 views on my last mock draft, on my first one. I know that doesn't seem like a lot to most people, but to me that means everything. If I didn't get 500 views on that video, I wouldn't be making this one now. I wouldn't have made some other videos that I made when I saw that, holy crap, I actually can get more than my mom to view my videos. Well, maybe I need to see what I can do, see what I can cook up a little bit more. If this video gets more than 500 views again, I will make my first mock draft with trades. I will actually purchase PFF to be able to get the trade feature. I'll write it off as a business expense. So if you guys really want to see a mock draft with trades, please let me know in the comments below, or just leave a comment telling me how stupid I am on your team that I picked, which was a lot of the comments, but I actually don't hate that because it gives me knowledge into what the fans want. You know, I only really know what me and my friends want. You know, I'm a Falcons fan, so I know exactly what we want and how interesting Falcons fans are, you know? But nonetheless, let's be in mock draft. I guess this is my second mock draft, but the first mock draft with the final updated order, no trades, and pick for one is Caleb Williams. He's the best player in the class, plain and simple, coming out of college. There are a lot of people saying that he looks like a bust, or, you know, he's not a surefire thing. And you know what? That is true. There is no such thing as a surefire thing. But he's the best player coming out of the class. The only player that you could even try to even mention as being the best player besides Caleb Williams is Marvin Harrison Jr. But what are you going to take? The best quarterback in the class or the best wide receiver in the class at pick one? I couldn't tell you the last, at least in my lifetime, a wide receiver has not gone first overall. Could have happened before my lifetime, but in 20 plus years, no wide receivers. Caleb Williams is the best player in the class. And I know a lot of Bears fans think that, oh, we should keep Fields and trade down. And there have been so many reports that have come out that said that the Bears are keeping Williams, or taking Williams, and it would take a colossal haul to trade up for Williams. And you know what? Maybe a team will trade up for Williams. Maybe a team offers 4 first-round picks. But in this no-trade mock draft, he's the best player. The Bears only have 1 year left of Justin Fields, so would you take a quarterback that you can have 5 years with, or 1 more year of Justin Fields, who has yet to take you to the playoffs? I understand the team sport, but it's not like Justin Fields is really elevating the team either. At pick 2, Washington's going to go Drake May. They just brought in Dan Quinn. They just brought in Cliff Kingsbury. And I know a lot of people are speculating, oh, they brought in Cliff Kingsbury. That means that they're going to trade up for Caleb Williams. Or maybe Cliff Kingsbury wanted to go to Washington because 1, Eric Bieniemy is out, so he's going to have full control of that offense. And 2, because he's going to get to draft his quarterback of the future that he's going to develop. And I think he's going to want to take Drake May. There is so much to love about Drake May, and in a world where Caleb Williams wasn't here, Drake May would be the surefire first overall quarterback taken off the board. Drake May, a lot of people, I think, either don't know how good he is or are question why he's going second overall, and it has everything to do with he's just, how do I say this? He's got that dog in him. You know, Drake May is a ball player. You watch games and Drake May completely takes over. I watched some of this film, dude, and Drake May, he makes some incredible plays. He wants to win. You know that you are getting a player in you and a dog in you. You never have to question about if he wants to win or not. I saw one play where Drake May was scrambling and he was about to get tackled. So he willed everything, threw the ball over to his left hand, pitched out with his left hand. It was an incredible play. And what attracts Drake May and why people might not know about him is his lack of talent, dude. He had Tez Walker this year. That's about it. I think he had another wide receiver that I was looking at is projected to go in the 7th round here. If you go to wide receivers, you have Tez Walker there. But yeah, 7th round wide receiver, Bryson Nesbitt. He doesn't really have that much talent around him. Decent O-line, but he didn't have Tez Walker for the first couple of the games of the season too. Drake May made that team relevant. He elevated the team. And that's what you're looking for in a quarterback. He's proven that on a team that doesn't have the most talent in the world, he can make plays. And I can tell you that the Washington offense is much more talented than his offense at UNC. And Washington also has big holes on O-line, massive O-line holes. Hopefully they address that in free agency, or you know what, maybe they'd like Sam Howell. They trade back a couple of spots, draft Joe Alt or Foley Ashanu. Who knows? But for right now, I think no trades. Drake May is the surefire pick. Coming in at number 3, I'm having the Patriots take Jaden Daniels still. A lot of people have been starting to mock them, Marvin Harrison Jr., but I go back to when Jared Mayo, word for word, said, "We are going to take the best player available at our biggest position of need." Came out and said it. He watched Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi play this year. There is no way he did not watch Mac Jones play all season and think to himself, it's the wide receiver's fault that Mac Jones is shit. You know what? Mac Jones' first season, his freshman year, I thought he had something. He took his team to the playoffs. They got smoked by Buffalo, and since then it's been downhill. Mac Jones has just completely lost his confidence. And if you're Jared Mayo, why, when you have the chance here at the 3rd overall pick, you might not be picking here again, you can literally take the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels, who has balled out the last 2 seasons. Last year did pretty good. This year he won the MVP, or Heisman. You might not be picking here again. Mac Jones, you have 1, maybe 2 more years with. I don't know if they're going to pick up his 3rd-year option or his 5th-year option. I wouldn't. You need quarterback. And yes, I understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. is here, and I understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. is an elite wide receiver prospect, one of the best wide receiver prospects we have seen in a long time. They need quarterback. He said best player available at their biggest position of need. Quarterback is the most important position in football. The quarterback touches the ball almost every single play on offense. Jaden Daniels looked elite at LSU this year. Yes, he had elite weapons, but I don't think... I hate when people say, oh, well, this quarterback had elite talent around him. That means that obviously he's not that good. That's such a bullshit statement. An elite quarterback can elevate his elite talent. Look at Mahomes. He had Tyreek Hill. Does that mean that Patrick Mahomes isn't that good? No, that's such a dumb argument. Elite quarterbacks and good quarterbacks can elevate the talent around them. It's not mutually exclusive that a quarterback is good and his weapons are good. No, a great quarterback uses his great weapons. And I hate when people make the argument, oh, the quarterback's only good because of his weapons. Especially Tom Brady fans. Well, Brady's the GOAT because he never had good weapons. It's like, dude, he had Randy Moss. He had Julian Edelman. He had Rob Gronkowski, who's considered to be the best tight end of all time. He went to the Patriots and he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and playoff Leonard Fournette. And it's like, I don't want to hear it, dude. It's such a dumb argument. And this year it's Brock Purdy. And everyone's saying that, oh, is Brock Purdy that good because he had all these weapons and he was put in such a good scheme? He's winning. He made it to the damn Super Bowl, and people are still questioning if he's a good quarterback or not. You're just never going to win with some people. Jaden Daniels at LSU was able to make use of his wide receivers and his talent. He's also great with scrambling, which is important in today's NFL. You look at some of the best quarterbacks, and they're good on their legs, and they know how to scramble. And Patriots will go Jaden Daniels, which leaves Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Cardinals here at 4. Cardinals need a wide receiver one bad. With that Kyler Murray contract, they're stuck with him. But I thought Murray played pretty well, actually, after coming back from the ACL tear. And now with a full season of, he was able to completely heal himself. Get him a true wide receiver one in there. Jonathan Gallen can also work with the defense. And the Cardinals this year, even though they went 4-13, there were some games that they looked really good in. The Cardinals, I think, somehow exceeded expectations. I thought everyone thought the Cardinals would have the first overall pick and would suck. And they played really good in some games, man. Cardinals have heart under Jonathan Gallen. You know, he was doing work there. Get him a true wide receiver one in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray's going to be happy. That offense is going to be happy. Defense is going to play hard. What do you want me to say about Marvin Harrison Jr.? We all know who he is. He's the best wide receiver prospect. There was Jamar Chase a couple of years ago, but outside of Jamar Chase and Marvin Harrison Jr., those are probably the two best wide receiver prospects we've seen in the last 5 years. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a freak athlete. He is as good as a wide receiver as his dad was, with better athleticism and better height and speed. That's all you need to know, dude. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a freak. And at 5, I still really think this could be offensive line, but I am going to go Brock Bowers here for the Chargers. I really do think this could be offensive line, but the Chargers just hired it's either Greg Roman or Greg Norman. I need to look this up. I don't sound like an idiot. So yeah, I really think this could be an offensive line, but I am going to go Brock Bowers to the Chargers, and here's why. So the Chargers did just hire Greg Roman to be their OC. And Greg Roman was the Ravens OC for a very long time. And the Ravens loved to run the football. And I remember wide receivers saying, hey, don't come here because for some reason Greg Roman hates us. And he loves running the football and he loves tight ends. And the Ravens offense did really well. He just has a unique offense. And Jim Harbaugh is going to love that. Harbaugh loves running the ball. You look at his teams on Michigan. You look at his natty team this year. He ran the ball down Washington's throat. Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football. He loves the trenches game. And that's why I really thought that the Chargers could take Joe Alt at 5, plug him in at right tackle, and you have your O-line set for the future. But Brock Bowers, he's also really good at blocking too. Brock Bowers is the type of tight end that can catch the ball and block really well. You look at Kyle Pitts and the Falcons drafted him. He was the unicorn because he had elite size, and for a tight end, he was phenomenal. But he didn't really block that much. Brock Bowers is more of a prototypical tight end where he has the ability to both block and he has just that ability to get open. You watch those Georgia games and Brock Bowers just always finds a way to get open. And in on the couple games he was hurt this year, Georgia really did miss Brock Bowers. He was truly their number one target for Carson Beck there. And for Herbert, I think that you look at some of his targets, you look at Keenan Allen, who's on the last year of his contract. Michael Williams, who's on the last year of his contract. Justin Herbert needs some youth there to throw the ball to. Quentin Johnson, who knows if he'll develop, but dude can't catch shit. Brock Bowers has hands. Brock Bowers does not have any catching issues. That is a big target for Justin Herbert to have a reliable target that he can go to and can also block what he needs. Which leaves Malik Nabers to the Giants. This is pretty much the consensus. I think everyone is kind of sold on Malik Nabers going to the Giants. This is kind of one of those picks that I think is just a lock. The Giants need a wide receiver one bad, and Malik Nabers is a terrific wide receiver one. He has the speed and athleticism that you love. Malik Nabers also does such a good job at getting open. You watch film of him, and there are plays where he runs his route, and it's zone, and it reads perfectly into his route, and he's able to read that zone and get right where he needs for the quarterback to get him the ball. Him and Jaden Daniels work so well because the pocket would collapse out of structure. Jaden Daniels would be so well at finding Malik Nabers, and they just clicked. Malik Nabers knows how to read defenses and read zones. The Giants, LSU quarterback or LSU wide receiver one, the storyline kind of writes himself with Malik Nabers and Odell. I'm not saying he plays like Odell, but, both colleges, both went to the same school, coincidence. That's so cool, right? But Giants need a wide receiver one bad. I mean, they have Darius Slayton, who's okay. They drafted Jalen Hyatt last year, who's fast. You know, he's a deep threat. That's about it, though. Sterling Shepard, I don't know if he's a free agent or not. Kenny Galladay, what a mess. Giants just need a true wide receiver one. Might as well get the second best wide receiver in the class here in Malik Neighbors, who can step up right away and instantly be the best wide receiver on the team. Which leaves the Titans here at 7 to draft Foley Ashanu for me. Tackle 1A and 1B is Fashanu and Joe Alt. I just think it's what do you prefer. Fashanu is the better pass blocking tackle, where Joe Alt is the better run blocking tackle. You look at Foley Ashanu here. This is insane, dude. In 24 games, he hasn't allowed a single sack. Now, in 2021, you know, he didn't really play that much, but in 2023 and 2022, he played 20 games and allowed 0 sacks and only 1 quarterback hit. That is insane numbers. Foley Ashanu is a phenomenal pass blocker. Absolute phenomenal pass blocker. Now, he could work to improve in the run game. For sure. But when it comes to pass blocking, he's the best pass blocker in the class. Straight up, he will not allow his quarterback to get touched. The Tennessee Titans have one of the worst offensive lines in the league this year. I think it's like the Jets, the Titans, and the Commanders who have the 3 worst offensive lines. Giants, I think, were up there too. But you need protection. And if you want to give a full season to Will Levis, you need him to not get hit. Draft the best pass blocker in the class, because Will Levis does have speed and athleticism to move out of the pocket onto the right side, but just give him protection at left tackle. Make him not have to worry about his blind side. And Brian Callahan, the Bengals OC, who is now the Titans head coach, knows all about how shit offensive line play in Cincy. Joe Burrow's team's great. Every single year, O-line's the worst issue for Cincinnati. It doesn't matter what they do, they can't fix it. If Cincinnati had a great O-line, Cincinnati probably should have won that Super Bowl if their O-line was actually good. Brian Calhoun's going to get his left tackle of the future and just not have to worry about the position, which leaves the Atlanta Falcons here to draft Dallas Turner. This is what I want Atlanta to do, so maybe this is some Atlanta bias in here, but I truly think that this pick would be Dallas Turner or Rome Odunze. A quarterback's not going here at 8. I'm going to be honest with you. There's no quarterback here worth a top 10 pick. Why are the Falcons going to draft Dallas Turner here? Well, they just brought in Raheem Morris, who's a defensive-minded head coach. The Falcons are like the worst pass rushing team in the NFL history in the last 6 years, I should say. The Falcons, for the last 5 years, have finished bottom in the sack total. Bottom in the sack total. Now, this year, the Falcons had the most amount of sacks they've had since they made the playoffs 6 years ago. Okay, hear me out. Most amount of sacks they've had in the last 6 years. And they finished 22nd in the league in sacks. Bottom 10 team in sacks. And they had their best sack total in the last 6 years. Falcons just have not had that guy. This year they had Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree. Both had 6 sacks. They both were signed to 1-year deals. So the Falcons' 2 best edge rushers, Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree, could be gone. We have Arnold Ebiketie, who also had 6 sacks, who I think is a really good guy for us. We had a 3-4 defense. I don't know if we'll change down to a 4-3 with Raheem Morris. We'll have to see. I think we're going to stick at a 3-4, though. We need an edge rusher bad, and Dallas Turner is arguably the best edge rusher in the class. He has the most upside out of all these top guys here. Yeah, you look at Jared Verse and Laiatu Latu. I think everyone agrees that Dallas Turner, Verse, and Laiatu are the 3 best edge rushers in this class. Dallas Turner has the most upside. For one, he's 21, where... What the fuck? Sorry. For one, he's 21, where both Laiatu Latu and Jared Verse are 23. So he's got an extra 2 years on him, which is actually massive because he's now going to be 26 instead of 28 going into his contract extension. Dallas Turner is able to set the edge phenomenally. I watched some games with him of Alabama this year. People tried to run to him. He's just able to block shit off his guy and set the edge so quickly and force the running back to cut up the middle, which is an elite trait that you want to see. And he's also got some incredible spin moves. The upside on Dallas Turner is great. And I think that he could be the guy in Atlanta if we properly develop him, which we just have Raheem Morris coming over for the Rams. And I really hope that we can develop Dallas Turner into our star edge rusher of the future, because we haven't had one in the last 10 years. And Falcons desperately need edge help. It's been, besides quarterback, edge is the Falcons' biggest issue, hands down. The pass rush is just abysmal at times. So many times late in the game in key situations where we need a stop, we don't get a stop, and we get no pressure. Dallas Turner can be that guy. He can help us both in our run game and in our passing game. Grady Jarrett coming back from his ACL tear next year. I think him and Dallas Turner and Arnold Ebiketie might actually be a threat on our defense, which allows the Bears here at 9 to draft Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is a wide receiver 1. If you look at all of our wide receivers, all the wide receivers in the class, there are 3 surefire wide receiver 1s, and that is Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, and Rome Odunze. All 3 of these guys are very similar, actually, in how they play. Rome Odunze just had a phenomenal breakout season here with Michael Penix Jr. Just look at these crazy stats, man. 92 catches, 1,639 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Last season, he played out of his mind, too. Rome Odunze is just an elite wide receiver 1, and he complements DJ Moore so well for Chicago. Chicago, you got to be ecstatic right now. You have Caleb Williams, the best quarterback in the class, and Rome Odunze, who is either the second or third best wide receiver in this class. Rome Odunze has all the traits that you want. He is so good with the ball in the air, and he's just able to pinpoint it and be able to catch it perfectly. He's a lot faster than people think that he is. Just has an ability to get open. Just like all these other guys. It's so hard for... I mean, Marvin Harrison's a freak of his own. But Rome Odunze and Malik Nabers are just so similar in what you want out of a wide receiver 1. Rome Odunze a little bit taller than Malik Nabers, so he's able to high point the ball a little bit more. But Malik Nabers has a little bit more speed, a little bit more athleticism. So that's why you kind of like Malik Nabers just a little bit more. But Rome Odunze is right behind him, and he's got those tall traits to be a true wide receiver 1, and he just complements DJ Moore so well for Chicago. I've seen so many mock drafts and so many people say Rome Odunze to the Bears here at 9, and it just makes perfect sense. He's just the perfect complement for DJ Moore, which then allows the Jets to draft Joe Alt here at pick 10. Jets just need tackle help, man. Jets' offensive line has just been so bad for so long. I know they drafted Mekhi Becton a couple of years ago, and he played great when he was healthy, but he just couldn't stay healthy, and injuries just destroyed his career. And Aaron Rodgers is going to need help this season, man. He got hurt in 4 plays last year, and the Jets quarterbacks that they brought in to replace him they had no help. That offensive line was abysmal. The Jets know that their biggest issue is O-line, and they're going to take the best tackle available, maybe even the best tackle in the class. I think Joe Alt can develop to be the best tackle in the class. I think Fashanu's better now, but Joe Alt is right behind him and could develop to be better than him. Joe Alt's, he's 6'8", he's massive, just a huge run blocker. You know, put him on the left side, run with Breece Hall right behind him, and you're not going to be able to get around him. He's just so big and physical that's why he's a better run blocker, because he can just bully you forward. In the pass blocking, there have been times where he's messed up with footwork. People have been able to get leverage around him. He did allow a sack, I think, this year. He did, a couple of hits, but run blocking, he played great. He played absolutely great. And the Jets get their left tackle in the future, or they can even slide him over to right tackle. And now we have the Minnesota Vikings here, and I'm going to be real with you. It does not look good for the Minnesota Vikings. Honestly, personally, if I was in control of the Vikings, I would blow up the team. Danielle Hunter, free agent. Kirk Cousins, free agent. There goes your arguably your best defender and your second best offensive weapon. Justin Jefferson has already come out and said he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, man. And if your team is that bad, why would you sign Justin Jefferson to such a big contract? I'd honestly trade Justin Jefferson for, Stephon Diggs. I think we went for a first and a third. The Vikings just need to blow it up, dude. Kirk Cousins isn't getting any younger. He's going to need big money to come back. The money that you're going to need to re-sign Cousins and Justin Jefferson. The defense isn't good either. Vikings aren't, and if the Vikings know this, then they do blow it up, and they know they're not going to be good next year, then you're probably going to be picking high and be able to draft a really good quarterback in next year's class. I know that there's Carson Beck who is returning. There's Shedeur Sanders. I think there's another really good quarterback, but if you're Washington here, I think what you do is draft someone who you can develop. Minnesota Vikings just had a bottom defense this year, and I think you really need to take a player that you can develop. The Vikings had a really bad pass defense, but they had a bottom 10 run defense as well, and that's why I'm going to draft Jared Verse for them. I know that maybe they re-signed Danielle Hunter, but that Vikings D-line outside of Danielle Hunter isn't that good, and Jared Verse is a really good run blocker, run defender. He's also great at getting interior pressure as well. Either if you play a 3-4, you can put him inside. You can also blitz off the edge. Jared Verse is someone that can bounce all around, and I've seen Florida State tape, and I've had insiders from Florida tape, or you look at fans saying just how good Jared Verse is and how dominant he was on that Florida State D-line this year. And Minnesota needs help defensively, and Jared Verse is really good pass rusher, but also really good defender as well. You look at where he was aligned going into the B gap. You know, they used him all around. He was primarily an edge rusher, but he also, just like Dallas Turner, is really good at setting the edge, really good run blocker, and just a great pass rusher. And if you're Minnesota, I think you need someone like Jared Verse on your defense, someone who has a lot of fire and a lot of passion and is able to help you in the run game as well as getting pressure on the quarterback, because the Vikings defense just sucks all around. And if you get more pressure, then the ball has to come out faster, and that helps your secondary as well. You start from the bottom, build your way up. At least that's how I like to think of it on defense. Broncos here at 12. If a team were to take a quarterback in the first round, it would be the Denver Broncos. I don't think the Vikings would, unless the Vikings really want to sit Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. for a year. But with Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., they're both older quarterbacks. You know, maybe you do want to sit him for a year, but I think Bo Nix is already 24. So is Michael Penix Jr. If you have them sit for a year, these guys would almost be 26 when they're starting the NFL. And I know that that's kind of happening with Jordan Love right now, but I don't even think Jordan Love is 26. Yeah, Jordan Love's 25, and he started this season at 25. So who knows? Maybe you're fine with sitting Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., but do you really want your rookie quarterback to be 29 going into their next contract? And quarterbacks are playing older, but when there's just so many good players still out there, and you know these quarterbacks are going to fall, you know, I don't think you have to take a quarterback. But if there were a team to take a quarterback, I honestly really think that it would be the Denver Broncos. And for the sake of this mock draft, let's give him Bo Nix. Sean Payton has not been happy with Russell Wilson, and he tried starting Jarrett Stidham for 2 games. That didn't go well either. Does Sean Payton want to bring in a free agent quarterback? Because look at how that just happened with Russell Wilson. They brought in someone who they thought was a surefire slam dunk pick in Russell Wilson, and people are saying it's one of the worst trades ever because of how much they gave for him. And look at who's going to be a free agent quarterback this season. There's Christian Kirk. He's not getting any younger. I think he's 36. Is there any other big names besides Christian Kirk? Probably Russell Wilson, but they're not bringing in Russell Wilson. Off the top of my head, I mean, there's Jimmy G. You know, there's not many options for the Denver Broncos. And if they are not happy with Russ, I think you bring in a guy like Bo Nix. There's also JJ McCarthy as well. But if you want someone who can play now, if you're Sean Payton, I don't think he wants to wait. I think he likes his defense. He likes his team. You bring in Bo Nix to try to command that offense. Bo Nix is a leader. I can say that about him. He played really good here at Oregon, but he never really needed to take control of a game. You know, he was great at controlling the game. And I'm not saying he's a game manager. You know, I'm not saying that, but it is the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 just kind of plays different football than some of these other leagues. You know, the Pac-12 is one of the more offensive-heavy leagues with offensive-heavy schemes. Well, what can I say? If a team were to take a quarterback, it would be the Broncos, and it would be Bo Nix. He fits the most into Sean Payton's system. I watched Sean Payton a lot with the Saints growing up, and just knowing what Sean Payton wants in a quarterback, it would be Bo Nix. That's all I really got to say about it. Bo Nix to the Broncos at 12. Which leaves the Las Vegas Raiders to take Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. Arnold was not on most people's draft radar, or at least he wasn't first round considered last year, but this year he might have taken the biggest leap out of almost anyone in this year's draft class. We all know who Kool-Aid McKinstry was. We all thought that he would be the surefire number one corner pick this year. And Terrion Arnold, everyone knew who Kool-Aid McKinstry was, so they just completely avoided him, threw it to Terrion Arnold, and he just balled out this year. Terrion Arnold played phenomenal, and he just reminds me of a Raiders player. He just plays like a Raider. And what I mean by that is the Raiders are just known as this tough, physical villain team. You know, we're the Raiders. We're going to punch you in the mouth. We are going to not show any mercy when we play against you. You know, we're the Raiders. We're the dogs. And I think that was a mindset that has been implemented for a very, very long time for the Raiders. And Terrion Arnold just fits perfectly into that defense. Raiders had a horrific, terrible secondary. Max Crosby and that D-line played great. Secondary sucked. And especially in a league where you're playing Patrick Mahomes twice a year and Justin Herbert twice a year, you need guys who can defend their weapons. Terrion Arnold, you need a guy that can cover Keenan Allen. You need a guy that can cover Rashid Rice. Raiders do not have a guy that can do that. And Terrion Arnold might be the best man corner, or one of the best man corners in this class. Just elite ball skills. Had multiple interceptions this year at Alabama. Great lockdown corner. He showed that he can play with the best this year at Bama. And he's a Raider. He just makes so much sense to me that he's a Raiders player. Just like Rome Odunze to the Bears, I love Terrion Arnold to the Raiders. Which the Saints at 14. So I'm having trouble with the Saints here at 14. I honestly I'm probably going to give him Laiatu Latu here, right? Because you look at the Saints and their biggest need is D-line help. Cam Jordan, I know they drafted Brian Brzee last year. He didn't really start that much this year. They have Cam Jordan, but he's getting old. And then behind that, it's not that much for the Saints. And they need D-line. Just for some, Laiatu Latu doesn't feel like a Saints player. Well, I don't know how to describe it, but just watching the Saints, Laiatu Latu just doesn't seem like a Saints guy. I don't know if I want to give Laiatu Latu to the Saints, honestly. Someone that feels much more like a Saints player to me, I think would be Brian Murphy out of Texas. Brian Murphy had a great year this season for the Saints, and the Saints need help up at the middle. Their run game was not that good. When I just think of Saints players, I think of big, physical guys, rough, punch in your mouth. We're going to take money to purposely hurt you kind of guys, and I'm not saying that's what Brian Murphy is, but Brian Murphy is just a big, physical defensive end that can get pressure up the middle. And I think I've talked myself into Brian Murphy here for the Saints. He's also really jumped up draft boards this year. And the Saints, they have Brian Brzee, who they let kind of sit last year. But that interior defensive line needs help, man. Saints interior defensive line, their defensive line in general, just needs help. They have Cam Jordan, but he's getting up there in age. I'm sure Cam Jordan would love another guy on the inside that he can play with. Just a big, strong, physical defensive tackle who is able to get pressure up the middle to help him on the edge. Saints really just need to continue to develop that D-line. They keep on trying to do it and keep on failing. But I think Brian Murphy would fit really well into that Saints interior defensive line, which Colts at 15, I'm going to give them Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean this year got hurt towards the end of the year, but Cooper DeJean is just, he can play everything. If you want Cooper DeJean to play safety, he can play safety. If you want him to play nickel corner, he can play nickel corner. He even played boundary corner at Iowa. Cooper DeJean is a true just lockdown, you can put him anywhere you want kind of guy. And some teams might be intimidated by that because that means that, what is he going to be? You need to have him stick to a position and stay with it. But Indy, they just need help everywhere on the backside of the defensive line. I know that I think they traded for Rocky and Sin, or no, they traded away Rocky and Sin, but Colts have not had a true corner. They tried getting Stephon Gilmore last year. That didn't really work out. Colts just need secondary help bad. That defensive line's pretty good. Their linebackers are pretty good. Their secondary just needs help. You look at that final game of the season, and CJ Stroud just carved up that defense. And I know that CJ Stroud's obviously really good. The Texans are really good. But now you're going up against CJ Stroud twice a year. Same exact reason why I said, hey, the Raiders need a corner. You're going up against some of the best guys in the league. You need a guy who can lock down their guys. Cooper DeJean is someone that you can play all over the field for Indianapolis, and he just seems like a Colts player. He just seems like the kind of guy that Jim Irsay would want to draft. I just think Cooper DeJean is a great fit up in Indy. That's pretty close, Iowa and Indiana. And I just really like the fit for Indianapolis because they need help everywhere, and Cooper DeJean is going to be able to go everywhere for them. Seahawks at 16. Seahawks at 16 is where Laiatu Latu is going to go for me. They just picked up McDowell to be their new head coach, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens, one of the youngest coach now in the NFL. And the Seahawks, they have a pretty good offense, good O-line, great weapons. Offensively, you look at that Seahawks team and they can dominate. The defense just let them down sometimes, though, man. Defense did not look good. They have a young secondary, which they can continue to develop. But defensive line, they need some help. They traded a second-round pick for Leonard Williams to come in and help, and he did decent, but they still need edge help. And Laiatu Latu is just so fast and just quick off the edge, and he gets a lot of sacks because of it, because he's just so fast, and he has such good leverage, and he has an amazing spin move, and he's great with his hands, and he's just able to beat tackles off the edge so fast that he can get pressure almost right away and get sacks right away. And the Seahawks need to get edge help bad. He's the best edge rusher left on the board. And I know everyone talks about this, but he did medically retire for 2 years, came back last 2 seasons, has dominated at UCLA. He's a little bit older, but I think that's fine for Seattle because he's 23 and he's able to step in almost immediately and make an immediate impact on that defensive line and help out that secondary some, because you would watch some plays with Seattle where the D-line was getting no pressure at all, and the secondary was just getting cooked because of it. Devin Witherspoon played great, but Woolen took a step back this year. I know they still have Jamal Adams, but he's been constantly battling injuries. One of the best things you can do for your secondary to help them out, get pressure faster, and Laiatu Latu can do that for Seattle. Which leaves Jershawn Newton for the Jaguars here at 17. And I just love this fit for Jacksonville. Jacksonville's interior defensive line was not that good this year. Jacksonville's interior line was not that good. And we might need to start having questions about Jacksonville's offense here pretty soon, especially Trevor Lawrence, but that's a video for another day. A lot of people are saying that Trevor Lawrence was hurt this year, so he didn't play that well. But you look at that Jaguars collapse, and that was on both offense and defense. And Jacksonville had one of the worst rush defenses in the league this year. And also, you look at Jacksonville's sack numbers, and Josh Allen had, I think, 16 sacks, and Trayvon Walker had 10 sacks. Those two edge guys combined for over 50% of Jacksonville's sacks. And then behind that, there was not that much. They almost got no pressure on the interior of their defensive line. Almost no pressure. It was always coming off the edge. And you know what? That worked for Jacksonville. But one, they don't have a lot of cap room this year. So if they do re-sign Josh Allen, they probably aren't going to be getting any more free agents. And they don't really have anything on the interior of their defensive line. And make that defensive line even more scary. Remember that Saxonville team a couple of years ago with Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, and Jashaun Newton, who is one of the best interior pass rushers here. At Illinois, he played phenomenal. He had 8 sacks this year, 28 hurries, was just able to get pressure right away, just playing bully football up the middle. And that's really going to help Jacksonville with having edge rusher pressure and interior pressure. That's going to be a scary defensive line to go up against in Jacksonville, which Cincinnati here at 8 is in a perfect, I did a pre-mock draft and I had Fuagu going earlier, but Fuagu's kind of just now fallen to the Cincinnati Bengals at 18. The Senior Bowl came out and Fuagu had a phenomenal Senior Bowl, and he's also really risen up draft boards this year. Cincinnati's always had struggle in their offensive line. For some reason, their offensive line has always sucked. Jonah Williams never really worked out. He's a free agent this year. He's gone. Bengals will keep Orlando Brown on the left side, and now on the right side, you can bring in Fuagu. He played right tackle at Oregon State, played great football, and I think Joe Burrow is now going to be set with tackles on both sides. You got a young right tackle to come in, immediately start, and really take some heat off Joe Burrow. Rams at 19. Rams at 19 could do a lot of things here. A lot of things. But for the Rams at 19, I'm going to give them Quinyon Mitchell. He also had a phenomenal Senior Bowl, man. So Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Toledo played a lot of zone defense. And he looked great in the zone. But a lot of people were giving him like low first-round talent because he didn't play that much man. They're like, well, he's a great zone corner. He can be a great safety. But how is he going to play man-to-man up against these elite guys? He went into the Senior Bowl, played man-to-man against some of the best wide receivers there, and dominated. Quinyon Mitchell might have been one of the biggest draft risers from the Senior Bowl to prove that, hey, I'm great in both zone and man. And I believe here that, there's Cooper DeJean. He's definitely a top 4 corner in this class. He will be one of the first 4 corners taken off the board, I believe. So there's Nate Wiggins, there's Quinyon Mitchell, there's Cooper DeJean, and then there's Terrion Arnold. Those will be the first 4 corners, I believe. I know that Ernest Rakestraw Jr. is also really high on a lot of people's draft boards as well, so maybe he can sneak into the top 4, top 5. But Quinyon Mitchell, Rams need secondary. They traded away Jalen Ramsey. Their corner group has not been that good especially if the Cardinals do get Marvin Harrison Jr., they're going to need someone to lock him up. Rams, they have a good D-line, but outside of that, it's not looking too good for them. I know they got a couple of good linebackers, but they need secondary help bad. Quinyon Mitchell very well might be the best secondary piece on the board, which leaves the Steelers here to draft Nate Wiggins. Steelers also do not have a good secondary. Could have the best edge rusher in the league in TJ Watt. They also have Cameron Hayward. That defensive line is scary good. Linebackers can prove a little bit too, but offensively, I'm not really too worried about the Steelers. Obviously, quarterback is an issue, but it seems like they're going to sign Ryan Tannehill in free agency to compete with Kenny Pickett. So I don't think they're going to be looking at quarterback here. Offensive line, they maybe could go with Jackson Powers Johnson here, but the Steelers defense has always been the identity of that team, and they have a great defensive line. They just need to get some more secondary help, and Nate Wiggins just feels like such a Steelers player. He has that prototypical size that you want in a CB1. I think that he can step in almost immediately for the Steelers and be able to be a difference maker on that team. And the Steelers are so good at developing defense that Nate Wiggins is just going into a perfect situation, I believe. I know that they drafted Porter Jr. last year. Give him a buddy in Nate Wiggins and just have a really good young corner duo for the future. And Dolphins here at 21. I honestly believe that the pick is going to be Jackson Powers Jr. or Brian Thomas Jr., one of the two. Miami Dolphins need a center now. I know that I think Connor Williams is walking in free agency. But I am going to give them Brian Thomas Jr. here. Speed, speed, speed is what the Dolphins love. Dolphins just love their speed. And honestly, outside of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins don't really have much wide receiver depth after that. And Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it almost seems like almost one of them was getting hurt towards the second half of the season there every single game. So you need another wide receiver that can step in and help Tua. Tua, I think, is now on the last year of his contract, so you might want to give him another weapon and say, hey, I understand that Hill was hurt a bit, Waddle was hurt a bit, his weapons weren't there. Give him another weapon. So if Tua also isn't the guy, then you can bring someone into an elite situation. Having three fast, quick wide receivers, the defense is going to have to, you can't cover all three of them with that speed. And Mike McDaniels is so good at play calling and just so good at options and motions that you add another fast wide receiver into that offense, and it just gets even more scary there in Miami. Plus, if one of them gets hurt, like unfortunately it has been showing that they get hurt, Brian Thomas Jr. is just able to just step in and just immediately help out. Eagles here at 22. So I believe I drafted the Eagles a corner in my first mock draft, and someone called me an idiot and said that there's no way that the Eagles would draft a corner. And I think they said that they would draft like safety or linebacker, if not. But honestly, what am I actually going to do here with the Eagles? Because I think the Eagles could do a lot of things here. Someone said that there's no way that they're going to take corner. But there is a Georgia corner right here in Kamar Leaster. I'm ass with names, okay? I know exactly who he is. I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan. I watched him. He played phenomenal at Georgia, okay? He took a really big step up this year. He played really good last year, but took a massive step up this year. Was Georgia Bulldogs' #1 corner. Really good lockdown guy. Eagles secondary was trash this year. Yes, they had... what's his name? Darius Slayton, but then James Bradbury, who just couldn't tackle at all. And Eagles love their Georgia defense, and it makes such sense for them to draft a Georgia corner here, even though I do think that Kool-Aid McKinstry and Ernest Rakestraw Jr. are better. What's stopping them from drafting the Georgia corner? But for the sake of everyone losing their minds, I'll give them Ernest Rakestraw Jr. Eagles need corner help bad. They need secondary help. There's no way you didn't watch that game against Tampa Bay and think to yourself, damn, Eagles secondary is fine. They're not. They tried bringing in Kevin Byard, didn't help. Eagles need a lot of help on that defense. That defense is atrocious. Defensive line is good, but secondary and linebackers need help, man. You know what? Maybe they take Edgerrin Cooper, who's the best linebacker in this class and who I do think is going to go in the first round. But they just need help, man. Bad. And speaking of actually Edgerrin Cooper, I am going to give him to the Houston Texans here. I love the fit, keeping him in his hometown. He also is a player that had a great Senior Bowl. D'Amico Ryan, defensive-minded head coach, and the Texans offense looked great this year. Their defense has room to improve. They have the really young edge rusher in Will Anderson Jr., really young good corner in Derek Stingley. Now you get your really young leader, middle linebacker of Edgerrin Cooper, who is, I think, pretty easily the best linebacker in the class. There is also... yeah, he's the best linebacker in the class. There's also Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but he won't go in the first round. Edgerrin Cooper is the only linebacker that has first round potential, and I just love the fit, keeping him in Texas, and just being able to almost start right away for that Texans linebacker group, which then leaves Dallas here at 24. I think Dallas could do a lot of things here. JC Latham has fallen to the Cowboys here at 24, and I just have to take him at 24 here for the Cowboys. Cowboys have, what's his name? Who's the fucker at left tackle that's always getting hurt? It's not Trent Williams. He's really good. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Wow. My dad's a Cowboys fan. I should know this. They have Tyrone Smith. That's who it is. My bad. But so Tyrone Smith can't stay healthy. I'm also pretty sure he's a free agent as well. And in this mock draft where JC Latham has just fallen to you, you can just plug him in at left tackle right away. Unfortunately for Tyrone Smith, he's probably just going to walk in free agency. Dallas, it does not have a good cap situation going on right now. They probably can't afford to re-sign him, but why would they want to re-sign someone who's also been hurt for him? I understand that he's a great player, but he's not getting any younger. He's going to take a lot of money to re-sign, and here you can just replace left tackle permanently and have JC Latham come in, start right away at left tackle. Offensive line has always been the staple for the Cowboys. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to stop doing that now, and just pick up your left tackle for the future. Which leaves Packers here at 25. I personally think that Packers are now upset that JC Latham didn't fall to them. But here at 25, I'm going to take Jordan Morgan out of U of A. Really good tackle. Really good tackle for Arizona. He has some things to work on for sure. You know, he allowed a couple of sacks, a couple of hurries, but he's a really good run blocker for the U of A. You know, allowing 1 or 2 sacks isn't bad at all. If your left tackle allows 2 sacks all year, I think you're going to be really happy with that. Obviously, he's going to be going up against much better pressure now that he is going to the NFL, but I think Jordan Morgan is the best tackle here on the board. Yes, there is Amarius Mims here, but Amarius Mims, you know, he hasn't played in many games. If you look at this year, he played in 7 games. Last year, didn't really play in that many games either. Like, I know this says 14, but I don't believe he was starting for Georgia. Marius Mims, he doesn't have that many starts in the NFL and at Georgia, and what you've seen from him you like, but Jordan Morgan has much more experience. I think he wants someone to come in and protect Jordan Love. Jordan Morgan can play on both sides. I just like the more sureness of Jordan Morgan than Amarius Mims. I think Amarius Mims can be great, but you want a guy that you have a team that can win right now. Do you really want to develop a tackle more? Maybe they do. And now here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, I'm spacing at 26, and I'm going to give him Jackson Powers Johnson. First center off the board, but he can also move and play guard. Buccaneers need help sorry, I just had a stroke. Buccaneers need help on the interior of their offensive line bad. Their tackles are really good, but their starting center, Ryan Jensen, just announced retirement. And their run game is not that good. Jackson Powers Johnson, again, another player with a great Senior Bowl. He will be the first center taken off the board, and he can also move to guard as well. So Tampa Bay has options with him. They can move him to guard, they can move him to center, they can do whatever is best for him. I think they want to protect the interior of their offensive line much more. They want to improve their run game, and Jackson Powers Johnson is a plug-and-play center that can do that right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Which then we now have the Arizona Cardinals, who we already gave them Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think here you just go best player available. If you were Arizona, you draft best defensive player available, which to me, looking at the board, that is either Kool-Aid McKinstry. Yeah, it's probably Kool-Aid McKinstry. I could also see Balin Trice being here as well. There's also Chop Robinson, who can be really good as well for them. But I think Chop Robinson, you know, he's kind of similar to BJ Ojulari, who they drafted last year. So I'm just going to draft the Cardinals Kool-Aid McKinstry here. Cardinals need help all over the place on that defense. Secondary is one of them. They had Byron Murphy, but they let him walk for some reason. So the corners there at Arizona just aren't good. Like I said, I think that's just best player available, and I either like Braylon Trice from Washington or Kool-Aid McKinstry from Bama. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I'm sure, is still going to be very high on people's boards. He didn't have a bad year per se, just he wasn't really targeted that much. Kool-Aid McKinstry just, I mean, he still had a great overall rating, but he just, he just wasn't targeted as much as he was last year. Look at his targets. 39 compared to 80 last year. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. And that's just because of the effect that he had, and people knew how good he was, so they just didn't throw to him. And he can be a true corner one for Arizona. And I think if Kool-Aid McKinstry falls to you at 27 with the pick that you got last year from trading down, you're ecstatic with this. And now this leaves Buffalo to draft at 28, and this will be a wide receiver for me. And, I think it could be any of these guys here. Adrian Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, or Troy Franklin. But I am going to go with... Dude, honestly, could be any of these guys. I honestly probably would have drafted Tez Walker, but Tez Walker probably had one of the worst Senior Bowls out of everyone. He just had struggle catching the ball. And does that mean he's going to fall out of the first round? No, it could not. But just, there's so many guys here that I think it could be. I'm not that high on Ladd McConkey as most people are. People love him. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, honestly. This could very well be Keon Coleman here. He's just a big jump ball wide receiver. But I am going to go with Troy Franklin out of Oregon. Why am I doing that? Troy Franklin just has freak speed, freak athleticism here out of Oregon. You look at his stats this year, 14 touchdowns, averaging 17 yards a catch, 130, almost 1,400 yards. Troy Franklin, just an absolute beast out of Oregon, just so fast. And with Josh Allen's cannon of an arm that he has, I think that it's just going to stretch the field much more. Also, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs just, how do I put this? Doesn't show up in the playoffs. I don't get it. And Gabe Davis is a free agent. Who knows if he's going to come back? I think this is for sure a wide receiver here if they don't pick any up in free agency, which their cap space isn't the best. But Troy Franklin, I think, is the best wide receiver on the board. I probably would have given them Tez Walker if it wasn't for the Senior Bowl. Who knows how much that drops his draft stock? A team could be like, well, he played really good all season. It could have just not been his day. Stephon Diggs doesn't have good days. But I think they want just a deep threat that can really stretch the field for Josh Allen. Which now the Detroit Lions here at pick 29. I could see this being a lot of things for Detroit, but their defense needs to improve. And I believe that I'm going to give Detroit... Okay, I know I watched Georgia, all right? I know exactly who this guy is. I watch them every single year. Kamari Laster. I'm asked with names. I know exactly who he is, okay? No question. I'm asked with names. Detroit needs help on defense. Bad. Their offense looked really good this year, one of the best offenses. I mean, they could get better on the interior of the offensive line. This wouldn't be any of these guys. Maybe Graham Barton out of Duke, who is scheduled to come inside and play more in the interior of the offensive line. But I think you just got to kind of go best player available here. This could have also been Braylon Trice, but you also really already like that D-line. That secondary needs to improve bad. You look at that game against San Francisco, and that secondary just kind of got carved up. They need corner help. I know they got Gardner Johnson Jr., but corners, they let Jeff Okudah walk, or they traded him. That experiment didn't really work out. I think you just go best corner available, and a really good lockdown corner from Georgia for Detroit, I think just fits perfectly. Which now Ravens here at pick 30. This could be a lot of things. But I'm going to give the Ravens Tez Walker here. And Ravens just seem to always need wide receiver help, and the more wide receivers, the better. Zay Flowers has looked really good for them this year, but Odell, they only signed to a 1-year contract, and I don't even think he did anything in that Chiefs game. Ravens have the best defense in the league. You know, they don't really need to improve that much on defense, and the people here, I don't really like that much going into their system. You know, maybe Chris Jenkins, but I just think you just continue to get more wide receivers for Lamar. Zay Flowers was the only real one that was impactful during that Chiefs game. I know Odell had a really good year too. I think he was their wide receiver too. But Odell only signed a 1-year contract, and Rashad Bateman has been okay for the Ravens. But Tez Walker just seems like a Raven. You know, I think that the Ravens are going to ignore that Senior Bowl and say, hey, he's still really good. We still really like him. You know, if anything, they're going to be happy that he's dropping to him here at 30. He has a Raven mindset. You know, I think that he'll fit really well in with that Ravens team, which San Francisco at 31. I do like Amarius Mims here for San Francisco. That they have Trent Williams already at left tackle. Right tackle can improve. I think that you draft Amarius Mims and you use Trent Williams to help him develop. You can plug him in at right tackle right away, or you can maybe even have him sit for a season under Trent Williams, who's getting older, and you can develop him. Really good left tackle out of Georgia, just doesn't have that much experience, and I think that's why a team like the 49ers will be very happy to take him, which leaves Keon Coleman to the Chiefs at 32. I really like this fit for the Chiefs. This year, fuck you. This year, Kansas City Chiefs' biggest concern was drops. Obviously, drops really affected the Chiefs team, and Keon Coleman is a big jump ball wide receiver. I think he's 6'4", and he's not the best separator in the world, and that's why he's fallen, but great hands. And for someone like Mahomes, who can make phenomenal plays, he's going to want a guy like Keon Coleman who he can depend on catching the ball. And he's a great complement to Rashid Rice, too, who could be his wide receiver 1. Keon Coleman being his wide receiver 2, big jump ball guy. But anyways, guys, that has been my draft. I have been sick. I don't know if you can hear that in my voice. So this video might sometimes stutter. You know, I sometimes got like brain fog. That's no excuse, though. But I really want to get this mock draft out early, just because I know the league just started. So while the topic is hot, please, as always, just leave comments down below. Tell me if you think I'm stupid. Tell me if you liked what I picked for your team. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the feedback, and peace.